What's up, everyone? This is the VerdeVUE Pod with KVUE. This is your host, Paul Livingood, alongside Jake Garcia and Brittany Flowers. How are you guys doing?
Good. Very good today.
How about
I'm
you, Jake?
fantastic. I don't think my audio quality is as good as Brittany's because I don't have the luxury of a mic, but
Yeah.
we move forward.
I'm pretty fancy. I busted out just in case I want to bust into a song, So,
We can get into that a little later, what you did with some players that involves microphones.
definitely.
But to recap what has happened in this first week, Austin FC lost 2-0 against LAFC in their MLS debut. They dropped to number 12 in the Western Conference standings. Only 4 teams had won their inaugural match in MLS history. That would be the Chicago Fire in 1998, the Seattle Sounders in 2009, the Vancouver Whitecaps in 2011, and they just lost, or the Austin FC just lost to LAFC, won their opening match in 2018. So moving forward, we are going to talk about the man of the match, or the 3 stars of the match. Brittany has watched this match twice, apparently. So give us your analysis of how they played.
Yeah, so twice, because the first time you watch, you're just watching for the enjoyment of it. And then the second time, you know that you're going to be talking about it on a podcast, so maybe you should pay attention a little bit more. I think we have a heck of a team. I was actually really impressed. I did not think that they looked like this is their first game ever playing together. They looked really good. On the ball, off the ball, I felt like they were composed. I felt like they were patient, which I feel like you don't always see in a team that's just starting out. A lot of times teams can play very panicked, but I felt like they were extremely patient. And it's there. There were these moments of just beauty where they're just passing around and it's just gorgeous. That's why they call it the beautiful game, because sometimes it is just beautiful and they worked it through. It's just that final bit, which I think the more that they play, it's going to come. It's going to come. It was so close. The LAFC keeper, Cisniega, he made some incredible saves. They had him diving all over the place. They didn't make it easy for him. He did a great job. And the moments are there. So more than anything, I was extremely excited, and I hope people don't see us not scoring a goal and be like, oh, I don't want to watch anymore, because there were beautiful moments. And it's there. It's going to come. I was very impressed.
I agree with what Brittany said for the most part. I'll also say, though, not only did I not watch this game twice, but the one time I watched it was through a camera viewfinder. So even my one viewing experience probably wasn't as in-depth as Brittany's fan experience of watching it was. But I left with a pretty similar takeaway. This is a team that, almost half of their players were making their MLS debut. So I expected them to look like that. And honestly, for I'd say 65% of the game, they didn't look like that. There were moments where, they controlled a good chunk of the first half. And, the bad news is that was with LAFC's best 2 players not playing. So maybe it wasn't the greatest indication of what they would look like against the LAFC team at its top version of itself. But still, that's a very deep team that they were playing against, and a team that even without their 2 best players is a contender to be among the best in the MLS. The bad news is that, Austin FC only had 3 shots on goal, and they invested so heavily in offense. And so I think that'll be a big focal point going forward, because that's supposed to be the strength of the team. I will say that, Josh Wolf's system is one that takes some time to fully understand and fully click. And I think that will be a work in progress. But all in all, there were moments where I agree with Brittany. They did not look like a team playing their first ever match.
You mentioned, like you said, Carlos Vela got injured in the 22nd minute. Seemed to be a miscommunication on the broadcast. Bob Bradley was like, "Yeah, that I pulled him too early. That was on me."
It looked like he was. I thought he was calling for a sub, but he wasn't. He was just calling for medical
just to
attention.
be looked at.
Yeah, that sucks for him.
I think more than anything, like he was just emotionally hurt because he missed what was a pretty good scoring chance there. And I don't know, maybe just needed a moment to regain composure.
Like when a kicker misses a field goal and they hold their leg like, oh, and they do that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that could have been it.
Yeah. So I mean, like you guys mentioned, it was very possession based in the first half, and Austin FC actually possessed the ball way more than LAFC did. It's 56-44. It's very lopsided. But like you both have alluded to, just the final third opportunities were not there. Only 12 shots to their 24, 3 shots on goal to their 9. They had more corners, so there just wasn't a finishing aspect on the attacking end, and that obviously led into the second half where they broke the deadlock and then couldn't move forward from there. So with that said, Brittany, your 3 stars or your standout players, who are they and what do you think?
Oh, I was like, as I watched the game the second time, I was like, oh, he could. And then something else would happen. I'd be like, oh, he could. So for me, like focused on people who I thought were stars based on both offense and defense, the way that they made a difference. Ring, I feel like I'm going to have a hard time not picking him every single week because that man works. Like on offense, he plays great passes. Like he's a playmaker. On defense, he's one of those annoying players that like he gets in there, he gets just the slightest touch on the ball and it ruins their whole offense. Like he's so impressive and he's all over the place. Like he's awesome. Brad Stuver, he doesn't make that save in the first 30 seconds of the game, like good save, that game's completely different. So I think that he was pretty impressive. And then, so that's defensively. Offensively, he plays great passes out of the back. It makes a difference, especially when there's a high press, if you have a keeper that you can play the ball to who can actually distribute the ball. Like, that's impressive. And then Gallagher, he came in off the bench and actually made, like, that's what you want in your subs. You want them to come in and actually, like, pump up the game and be impressive. And he was like immediately he made a difference.
Well, my video continued to work and you guys froze. So I was like, was that me or was that them?
Oh yeah. And then you were gone.
The last thing I heard you say was Alex Ring. That man is everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. So then I talked about Brad Stuver just to catch you up. Then I talked about Brad Stuver, him making a save in the first 30 seconds. If he did not make that save, the game's completely different. I mean, with sports, as you guys know, momentum's a huge part of it. If you go down your first 30 seconds of ever playing in your MLS, like your confidence is kind of shot. He makes that. I mean, the first 2 minutes were a little bit like, oh gosh. Then they figured it out. But okay, so that was my second one. Gallagher, that was my third. He comes off the bench and makes a difference. Like, yeah. That's what you're looking for. So those were my 3.
Okay. So, I mean, my man of the match is definitely Alex Ring. He was an Energizer bunny all over the field. Like there is a reason, we saw the reason why there's a C on his chest. And that's because he was clearly Austin FC's best player on the field. Paul, you mentioned how they outpossessed LAFC in the first half. I think Alex Ring on his own outpossessed LAFC in the first half. When Austin FC brought him on board, MLS pundits, and I'm not one of them, but I'm becoming one the more I watch this team, said that Alex Ring is a top 5 defensive midfielder in the MLS. And like he did not disappoint those expectations one bit in game 1. He's probably not going to score a lot of goals, but I think everything else that he does for this team is invaluable. So definitely my man of the match in game number 1. I guess I'll add two different names. Gallagher was great. He was a spark plug off the bench. I think there's even the case to be made that like he could be a starter at some point later on in the season. But I'll also say that Tomas Pochettino looked pretty good in the opening match. He kind of faded down the stretch and was eventually subbed out. But aside from Gallagher, he came the closest to scoring. In fact, I thought he kind of got unlucky, and so did Josh Wolf. He thought he got unlucky that his header didn't find the back of the net. So, like, he's going to be relied upon heavily this year to be a scorer for this team. And I think goals are definitely on the way for him. My third man of the match, let's see. He made a critical mistake towards the end of the game, Danny Pereira. But, like, for a rookie, for a guy who was playing college soccer just a few months ago against a center midfield attack for LAFC that is the best in the league, like, I thought he played pretty well. There were times where he looked like a rookie, but all in all, like, he looked like a promising player and kind of validated, in my opinion, why Austin FC took him number 1 overall in the super draft when a lot of people thought that he wasn't the top pick.
Yep. I agree with all points. And so going back, now we're going to pivot to the Quick Soccer 101. Not a lot of soccer fans in Austin, or not a lot of casual fans in Austin, will know everything about soccer, presumably. So to help with that effort, we're going to have Brittany do one Soccer 101 rule like they did in the special, and so I'll hand that over.
Okay, yes. So since it's Soccer 101, we're going to start with the most basic rule of soccer, which is you can't use your hands. You use your feet, your chest, your head, your knee, your butt, like whatever else, but you can't use your hands. You will see one certain somebody using their hands, and that is the keeper. They can use it inside the box. They, however, cannot use their hands if it is a ball that is passed back to them from their team. An important note. You'll also see people use their hands when the ball goes out on the sideline. The team that kicks it out, the other team gets a throw in. So you throw it in from the sides. It's different if it goes past the goal line. So that's my first rule, is no hands, which it's part of what makes soccer beautiful, I think, just seeing how creative people get without using their hands.
Jake?
Quick follow-up question for that, because I feel like this might be something that the casual soccer fan is going to learn really quickly this season. There will be times in the game where maybe a ball is just kind of lasered into someone's hand and it's unintentional, and the ref will let things play on. What goes into that rule? When is an unintentional handball called, and when is it, allowed to keep playing?
Okay, right. So unintentional is an important thing here. Refs will base it off of, is your hand, your arm within like your body? So if you reach out for a ball, they're going to call that a handball. But if it's within your body right next to you and it just happens to hit your hand, then they will continue the play.
Do we want to get into what happens if that happens in the box?
Right.
Do we want to go that far with it, or?
Sure, why not?
So
I mean,
go, take it away.
We don't have to keep this, but in our women's game, this exact situation happened to us. They shot the ball. Our defender, her arm was kind of outside of her body, obviously very unintentional, but what happened, because it happened in the box, they got a PK, a penalty kick, which we can get into PKs another time. That could be another Soccer 101. Yeah, but people love PKs. The non-soccer fans love PKs.
A penalty kick shootout is like one of my favorite things as a very non-avid soccer fan at this point, but I'm trying to get more into it. But I love the whole PK shootout situation in the later in games. So
Here's the
moving
case
forward
I just wanted to make a quick case against PKs, and this will be something that you might hear echoed by, the soccer crazy fan, is that you play 90 minutes of what is, a possession-based game, so many tactical strategies involved, and then for that to be, and also an overtime period, that's the same thing, and then for all of that to be decided by a shot that is probably going to find the back of the net. Like, that to me is just the antithesis of soccer. It's kind of like you play 9 innings of a baseball game and, MLB is experimenting with the rule when you reach extra innings. Oh, we're just going to put a runner on second base now. Like, when is that ever a part of the game? Never. And so for like a soccer game to be decided by that, like, to me, that goes against everything we've just watched for 90 plus minutes.
Yeah, they're so exciting, but it sucks. Like it,
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. You're like, oh, damn, now we have to go to this, especially because taking them, it's mental. Like, you'll see keepers trying to psych people out. Like, it is a mental game. It just, it completely switches it up. And when you're playing soccer, your teammates are there right next to you. When you take a PK, it no longer becomes this like team thing where everybody's working their butts off. It's you walking the ball down to the PK spot, and it's just you and that keeper. It's a wild feeling. And yeah, it kind of, you're like, damn, like, why couldn't we have scored in the actual game, But scoring is hard. Like, scoring in soccer is so hard. And I would hope that people wouldn't be discouraged to watch soccer because of that. But that's why we get so excited,
Yep. I hear you. All right. So moving forward, that was the last game. Moving forward to this next game, Austin FC plays the Colorado Rapids. They tied against FC Dallas 0-0 last week. So they are kind of in the middle of the pack. They got one, they're 7th in the West standings after that game. And so, Jake, you have listened to coach's press conference leading up to the game. What was he talking about leading into the Colorado Rapids game?
Well, first of all, it's rare that we're in the second game of the season and 2 teams already have a common opponent, but that's the case here. Colorado played FC Dallas in their first game. Austin FC obviously had a preseason match against FC Dallas. And what can we learn from that? I'm not sure if we can learn much, but, both games resulted in ties. Colorado's first game of the season was 0-0. They tied Austin FC 3-3 in the preseason. So, I mean, that, leads me to believe that there's a decent chance that Austin FC scores its first goal this coming week. One thing I do want to point out is there's an elevation factor in this game as well. Not just playing an opponent on the other sideline, but you're also battling the elements, for lack of a better word. Like, it's real. You go up that high in elevation and you're going to get winded faster than you would going to LA, where you're right around sea level. And so, that was a question that was asked to Josh Wolf this week. How do you prepare your guys for that? And he said, the preparation isn't all that different. They do have elevation chambers and other sort of devices that they're using and have been using to kind of prepare their lungs for what will be a shock initially. But it's my understanding of this, doing stories with elite endurance athletes who train in those elevations, is it's all about overcoming that initial shock and finding your second wind. So we know that Austin FC kind of tired in the second half against LAFC in their first game, and their conditioning clearly wasn't at its peak level. So when that inevitably happens times 2 at elevation, how do they respond to that? And I think that'll go a long way in determining the outcome of the game.
I think that's so. Okay, so I'm from Albuquerque, which is a mile up. I know they call Denver the Mile High City, but Albuquerque is also a mile up. Olympic athletes come from all over the world to train there just because of that. It makes it, I mean, when you travel from Albuquerque, from Denver, it feels like you're breathing so easy. if you're not used to that, it makes it so much harder to run around. It feels like you cannot catch your breath at all. But like you said, they have to, get over that initial hump of like, oh my gosh, this is different, and just push through it. But yeah, the hyperbaric chambers, they have those. So I just feel like at that point, it also becomes more of a mental game. You got to keep the ball. You can't be having bad passes to where you have to chase the ball a bunch because you'll get exhausted. So I think keeping the ball is going to be really, really key, and actually just passing it around.
I think honestly that is part of the case to be made as to why John Gallagher should be kept on the bench to start this game, is that you're going to need a spark plug and energy at some point in the game off the bench. And I think he really brought that in the first match. And I think that could be even more important this week.
So aside from the elevation storyline, other storylines that you could be looking at, obviously they're still looking for their first wins, looking for the first goal. But how do you guys view them having to open their season on the road 7 times in a row? So Brittany, we'll start with you.
Oh man, that has got to be so tough. It makes that first game at Q2 just really even more special. You're coming off of you're getting introduced into MLS in a real way. You get to travel around. Sure, that's fun, but it's different. You're against other people's fans that are screaming, LAFC, their fans were loud. It's got to be so much harder, but it's not like they're used to playing a game at home. This is what they know right now, so this is it. It's not like they have played so many games at home and they're used to having the home crowd and everything. So it's not like we have to relearn anything. This is what this is how they're getting introduced. They don't know it another way yet.
I just hope that the casual fans of this team will give them some time and realize that so many parts of this are a work in progress. I mean, not only do you have half the starting lineup having not played in the MLS before, they haven't played with each other. The COVID restrictions that they had to go through leading up to the season, and the fact that their first 7 games are all on the road. Like, there's so many things that make this expansion franchise even harder to have success than the typical expansion franchise. And it's really hard to begin with for expansion franchises to have success, initially at least. So, I mean, the factors that go in when you don't have a home game for so long, you're not sleeping in your own bed the night before the match. You have to travel to sometimes different time zones. The simple act of traveling is wearing. And so when you combine that with all the other things that they have to deal with, a team that already may not be in peak physical conditioning, it's going to be draining. And so I just hope people realize that there's going to be an initial shock on so many levels. If it can get over that hump, I think that's when they're going to find success.
How big of a deal would it be in your mind to just get that first win this week? Because I mean, it's very easy when you start on the road 7 times to go on a losing streak, because you just can't get it going. And so, and even to Brittany's point, that first home game is going to be such a big deal at Q2 Stadium, not only because of the prolonged time on the road and all the challenges that presents, but also just because of the fan base here. The game this weekend was the most watched game in the United States, even more so than the women's national team game. So I mean, there's a lot of interest here for it. That game's going to be huge. But in terms of keeping casual fans engaged, what do you think it's like? How do you avoid not going doom and gloom, not going 0-7, or winning 1 game or 2 games in your first 7 games? How would you foresee that not happening, or how do they avoid that, I guess?
That's what bums me out about the casual soccer fan, and I will just be an advertisement for the sport of soccer. Soccer is just, I can't even describe it. It's just, for me, it's like the best thing ever. And there are moments other than goals. And that's what a lot of people who are not fans of soccer, they're like, there's not enough goals. But there's so much more to soccer than just scoring goals. And obviously you don't want to lose a game. You don't. If they, were to lose this game, then you're starting to get into your own head. Momentum matters. I mean, after watching this game, they looked great, but we have to score. Like, we need that first goal, and I think things will start to click a little bit more. I mean, Colorado, they didn't score. Both teams are looking for their first goal. I think when we get our first goal, people are going to be we're going to hear the streets of Austin just screaming. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard, and they're going to have to work. But I think that the work ethic that we saw shows that, like, they can do it. I don't think that the fans are going to give up on Austin based on these first few games, because, like, Austin is a soccer city. Like, we've proved that time and time again. So I just would hope and urge people who are maybe not typically soccer fans to, like, continue giving it a chance,
Jake?
I look at Austin FC getting its first win the same way I do them eventually getting their first goal. Once you see results, that validates so much of the process. And I think right now this team is at the point where they still entirely believe in the process, and they believe in the training that they've put in and the system that Josh Wolf runs. Eventually, though, like, the results have to come. And I think the longer that they don't come, the more doubt starts to creep in and the more questions that start to pop up. But I think for now that they're fully bought in, and I think that's the only option. It's definitely the best option. Continue to buy into the process and just trust that the results will eventually come. I mean, I think it's going to happen, especially the goal part of this. Like, the strength of this team is their attack. That's where they invested most of the resources in. They're going to give up some goals this season. But I think their success depends on finding the back of the net. And I do think it's going to come. I just think it's also going to take a little bit of time for them to gel. So, once that happens, I think that is going to lead to, even more success down the road. It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
All right. So it seems like natural segue into this next part. Brittany alluded to this earlier with her microphone. So she talked to a bunch of the players, and one of the questions that she got to ask them was about what?
Their go-to karaoke songs. Now, unfortunate for everybody else, like, none of them sang except for one, and that's Freddie Kleeman. He sang Just the Way You Are. Is that what the song is called, by Bruno Mars?
Yeah.
He actually sang it.
I'd like to add really quick, he didn't really sing it. Like, with his heart. Like, I could sing that song with my heart, and what he did with
do it.
Just the way you are. I don't know if that's probably offbeat, but.
Cause girl, you're amazing. Just the way you are.
Woo! That was good, Jake. My goodness. Jake
You will
is out
not
here
find a bigger fan of Bruno Mars than
Oh, really? Okay.
Or
That's
The
good to know.
Weeknd.
Yeah, I mean, but like I like probably like 5 artists, and that's the only music that I listen to, and Bruno Mars is one of those people.
Okay, well, same with Freddie Kleeman. Kakuta, he told me that he was a good singer at the beginning of the interview. And I said, okay, we'll get to that, because the karaoke question was at the end of the interview. We get to it. He said it was a Celine Dion song that he said was his go-to karaoke. And I said, can we hear a bit of it? You said you're a good singer. And he said, no. Which I was really disappointed, because he had said he was a good singer. Now we don't know. I have no idea if he's a good singer or not. He could just be claiming to be a good singer. Let's see. Brad Stuver, his song was Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain. And he also wouldn't sing it. I said, could you even just give me a Let's Go Girls, which is at the beginning of that song? And he said no, that he has to have a couple of cocktails in him before doing that. Julio Cascante, he said he doesn't have one. He said he loves music, but he doesn't have a go-to karaoke song. And so it was Freddie. Freddie was the only singer.
What were some of the other like pop culture-y questions that you asked them in your interviews?
I asked them what their go-to dance moves were. So once again, Freddie, he showed us. His was kind of like a little like shimmy thing, and he did it. Danny Pereira, I can't remember. Well, I don't know what his dance move. He told me, but I can't remember. What's this dance move?
The Millie.
The Millie Rock?
Thank you. Ugh, I'm getting old. He actually stood up and danced. Kakuta said no, but so Kakuta's go-to dance move is the Dougie. And so I asked him to do the Dougie, and he said, you can see it when I score a goal. That's my celebration. So I think everyone in Austin will be waiting for him to do the Dougie.
Could you imagine if he was the first person to score a goal and he whips out the Dougie?
I would feel like that was dedicated to me because I specifically asked him to do it. Yeah, no, he said that was his celebration. He does the Dougie when he scores. So hopefully we can see that.
One of my favorite parts of that whole piece that you did in the special was Danny Pereira's Matthew McConaughey impression. I thought it was actually pretty good.
He threw a little twang on it.
I know.
All right. That's what he sounded like. And I was like, dang, did it? Yeah, Brad was like, oh, I'm not as good as Beasler, but I'm second. And I was like, I've never heard Beasler's, but Danny's is definitely number one in my heart. You know what? I'll post a couple more because Julio's was pretty good. Kakuta's pretty good, but Danny actually threw a little twang on it.
All right.
Did you have them all do it?
Every one of them, yeah.
Okay. Because I only saw Danny's.
That's because I clipped that one and posted it on my Twitter for the first game.
Yeah.
I'll post another one this Saturday. I'll post one, probably Julio's.
Speaking of,
someone's got to ask the hard-hitting questions, and
that's what Brittany's here for.
That person is me. I also asked them if they put their toilet paper over or under because I really need to know which players on this team I'm going to respect. And I learned. I learned quickly. Mm-hmm.
What's the right answer?
Hold on. Are you guys over or under? I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is.
Jake,
the right answer has to be over.
Okay, thank you, Jake.
Yeah.
Okay. I was really nervous because I was like, we're not going to be able to do this podcast if your answers are under.
Yeah.
So good.
So you're not gonna blast out who was the unders?
Oh, Danny, and I think Julio maybe or Kakuta, one of the two.
All right, Jake.
I feel like under just shows a lack of attention to detail. Like that, an under person is someone who doesn't pay attention to that. Meanwhile, over people are meticulous about making sure it's over.
Okay, I know that this is about soccer and everything, but we have to have this conversation. I need to tell you, Jason Michael, our meteorologist and anchor, he's an under person. And we had a full-on argument about it, like yelling.
Yeah.
Madi Salazar, an under person.
Man.
I do not understand. I simply don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that is called Toilet Talk. That's what that segment is going to be called.
So to continue this little pop culture fun section, Jake was actually in Cali, so we wanted to hear what his experience like was going back to the West Coast, because you're kind of a West Coast guy.
Yeah, the first thing I'll say, and I'm not trying to put you on blast or anything, Paul, but no one calls it Cali. Just so we start off on the right foot.
California.
Yeah. I'll just full disclosure. The first thing I did, along with Emily John Greco, who was there as well, as soon as we landed, right after we picked up the rental car, before going to check into the hotel, we went to an In-N-Out.
Is it better in California?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I'm not the right person to ask about that because I am so blinded and biased by my love and affection for In-N-Out that I don't even know Like, to me, all of it tastes good. The In-N-Out right across the street from me where I live in South Austin tastes amazing.
People will find out Jake's a hardcore In-N-Out guy.
Yeah, so that question is better asked to like some of the fringe In-N-Out people who like that argument has definitely been made that it's better in California. I will say like there's some nostalgia attached to it because like people always are like, oh, like Whataburger's so much better than In-N-Out. Like that's cool. Like you have your preferences, I have mine. I don't even hate Whataburger. Whataburger to me just isn't home. And In-N-Out is. Like whenever I step in there, you know, flashbacks of post-football game hangouts in high school will come back. And like for a lot of people, those aren't great memories, but for me, that's something that I hold near and dear. So I know I just spent like 10 minutes talking about the In-N-Out portion of the trip, but I just wanted to emphasize that it was significant and it was great. And I had a 3x3 and it didn't disappoint. Other highlights of the trip to Los Angeles included the morning before the match. We were starving, Emily and I were, and had a few hours to go find some local cuisine. And so we went to Grand Central Market, which
I love that place.
Yeah.
Did you go to X-Slut?
Well, so here's the thing. Our initial intent was to, and I didn't realize that was a part of Grand Central Market. We get there though, and the line is outrageous. Like it's wrapping around 3 different poles, and I'm like, we're gonna be here for 4 hours. So we go inside and ended up waiting at a line that was significantly shorter, but probably ended up taking just as long. And I can't remember the name of the place, but I ended up having, you know, one of the best breakfast egg chorizo burritos I've ever had. So it was great. It was fantastic. But the point of this story is we thought we had to get in and out quickly because, no pun intended, because we had to meet up with some of the supporters people outside the stadium, you know, talk to them before the first match. Well, as we're walking there, a group of 15 of them walks by. And so in the second biggest city in the country, we could have gone anywhere, and we immediately park and see a group of Austin FC fans walking down the street. It felt like we were all exactly where we needed to be. And, you know, a few of them waited in line with us, got to know their stories a little bit better, and we ended up being able to take our time with our breakfast, and then shortly after drove to the stadium to meet them there. So it was a great way to kick off opening match day.
Another pun.
My favorite videos were them on the airplane buying tickets, buying plane tickets for their drums. Like those videos were incredible to me. I wish I could have been on that flight right there. Like just doing the chant. Did you learn some chants, Jake?
I didn't learn any new chants. I mean, like I felt like the chants they sang are the chants that we've covered before. Mm-hmm. So, but like it was awesome to see that passion many, many thousands of miles away from home. And by many, I want to say it's less than 2,000. So 1,000 miles away from home. Yeah, but like the stories of people buying plane tickets for their snare drum, or their, not snare drum, big drum, whatever that's called, legit, confirmed, verified. We actually sat right next to one of the people from Los Verdes. He had taken the day off work. He told me that literally, like, if his boss told him, no, you can't go, he was still going to go. So, like, that's just bold. Stories of that kind of passion and fandom were everywhere. And it was awesome to be sitting right next to one.
Did you get to see Matthew McConaughey and Will Ferrell, or no?
I didn't. And I couldn't even tell if like that picture that was like circulating online.
That was from
was that from the year
like
before?
A year ago.
Yeah, I thought so, because there were way too many people in the crowd for that to have been this past weekend. So I didn't see either of them. Part of that was because where I was shooting the game from was not even really that close to the field. It was elevated. So yeah, did not get to.
They didn't show them, from what I saw, they didn't show them on the broadcast either. You know how
I don't
sometimes they'll
remember
show
seeing it
you
either.
video of the suites and you'll see them? I really wanted to see that. Or I wanted to see like something on social media of them like posing for a picture with their arms up, ready to fight, something. But
Did you guys see the plane that flew overhead before the game started?
No.
So one of my biggest regrets from the trip was that I didn't get that memorable of a shot of this. But while LAFC was doing like some pregame ritual thing with like this eagle or hawk that they have, and that thing was like flying around inside the stadium, I was like following it. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw a plane fly by with a banner, and it said, I can't remember what the first sentence was, but the last sentence was ATX hasta la muerte.
I do know what you're talking about.
So look, the supporters group literally like either like rented a plane or paid someone to fly over the stadium with that sign. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
That's incredible.
And I got my camera on it right as it was like leaving my line of sight. So there's like a 2.5 second clip that is not great.
I did see the picture on
amazing.
social media, but I thought that was like people in LA did that, not like someone from the Austin supporter group paid for a advertisement on a prop plane.
I don't know like if the pilot or whoever was flying was like someone who was LA based, or if it was an actual Los Verdes supporter who just happened to own a plane and know how to fly it. I don't know. but the supporter who we sat next to on the plane did say like, hey, we got something special like cooked up for pregame. All I can tell you is pay attention to the sky and you won't be disappointed. And like I internalized that, but I didn't execute.
That's awesome.
I'm mad at you for not executing, because that's incredible. We're just gonna have to envision it in our own heads.
Yeah. Any wrapping up this section, any other memorable moments that you could think of? If not, that's fine.
I mean, our hotel was in the heart of downtown LA, which phenomenal. Like beautiful hotel. I locked myself out of my room once. That was cool, but the kind staff up front was quick to give me another key. The night before the match, we were getting ready for the live shot, and someone from LAFC PR sprinted over to us and was like, can you please point the camera in a different direction? And I'm like, sure, but can we stay here for another hour? And so, you know, that was an interesting introduction to them.
Wait, but why?
I don't know. I never got an exact reason. They were super mysterious and weird about it, but apparently like they were planning something special for pregame. I didn't end up like knowing what that was, like even being inside the stadium beforehand. But apparently like they didn't want to leak anything that was happening. And I was like, sir, I can't even see inside the stadium with my camera right now. If I could, I wouldn't even, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to run a live shot for our 10 o'clock show. And slowly he started to like understand that, but it took him a bit. So all in all, just a fantastic trip to
I'm jealous.
City of Angels.
I'm jealous.
I was actually born like 30 minutes away. So
interesting.
It was a homecoming.
A little good homecoming for you. So I guess looking forward to next week. Brittany gave her players of the week, our man of the match, or both of you did technically. Who are you guys looking out for in this next match against Colorado?
I will forever look out for Alex Ring. Like forever.
Forever.
Like he's just so impressive to me. I think it starts with him, and he's the one that makes plays happen. Him finding the passes, I mean, it makes such a difference to me.
He is the captain, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's the obvious choice, but I can't help but say it.
Jake?
I'll go with two guys, Cecilio Dominguez and Rodney Redes. I felt like both of them slightly underperformed in the opening match, and obviously expectations are incredibly high for both of them, but especially Cecilio being one of the designated players. Hopefully he can live up to those expectations, because I think he's crucial to this team scoring. And then for Rodney, maybe still kind of dealing with the lingering effects of that whatever minor knee injury he had in the final preseason game. We haven't really gotten much clarity on what that was and whether he's back to full strength now, but that was a thing he was dealing with leading up to the game. So I'll be looking to see whether the two of them can ramp up their production.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations were very high, and I'm typically a very positive person, but they weren't exactly met with those two. I thought maybe they kind of got pushed off the ball a little bit. But I think having played this first game, nerves are a little bit better, hopefully, going into game 2.
Okay. So which is going to be on April 24th, this Saturday. I want to say it's at 8 o'clock, I believe. But without further ado, that is going to conclude our first episode of.
It's at 8. You're correct.
It is 8. See, I knew it.
I don't know if you know this, but you can. Maybe it's something with the app, but it'll add all of the games into your calendar for you.
I did do that. I was lazy and I did not have my calendar pulled up. If I'm being completely truthful.
Well, your guess was right.
But I knew it in my brain, but I was like 80% on the game time. But Austin FC is hosting another watch party. This time's at 3:10. Last time it was at the Long Center. I think the availability on that is very limited, and I'm not remember how many seats or tickets that they're allowing in off the top of my head. But this time it's at 3:10 in downtown. And so, and I'm sure there'll be other watch parties like the one that Mike Marut went out to this weekend all around the city. And so with that, it ends our first episode of the VerdeVUE Pod, KVUE's Austin FC podcast. You can catch all of the Austin FC content on kvu.com/AustinFC. And we will catch you guys next time. Do you guys anything to say to the people as we leave here for the first episode?
Yeah, one final thing, a season of historic firsts, and check another one off the list, the first VerdeVUE podcast coming from KVUE. This was a monumental feat, and I'm happy to have one of these in the bag.
Me too. Dale, 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 ATX.